Picture this for a moment. You're sitting across from her. The music is playing softly in the background, and she's smiling politely as you talk. She's heard it all before: compliments, jokes, the usual lines men throw out. But then you say something different. Just one word slips out, a word so unexpected, so raw, that she suddenly stops. Her eyes lock onto yours, her body leans in, and for the first time tonight she feels something deeper. What just happened? It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't the way you looked. It wasn't even the story you told. It was that single word, the kind of word most men are too afraid to say, and that word became the spark. The spark that flips a switch in her mind, the spark that makes her curiosity race, the spark that opens the door to obsession. There are 5 of these words, 5 forbidden words that unlock an emotional response so powerful she won't even understand why she can't stop thinking about you. And once you learn them, you'll never look at conversation the same way again. Most men think attraction is built on what they can show a woman, how good they look, how much money they make, how impressive their lifestyle is. But here's the truth she'll never tell you. None of that matters if your words don't move her. Because what she remembers isn't the car you drove up in, or the shirt you were wearing, or even the restaurant you chose. What she remembers is how you made her feel in the moments when you spoke. Words create emotional chemistry. They're not just sounds. You're literally painting emotions in her mind. One sentence can make her feel safe, another can make her pulse quicken, another can make her laugh uncontrollably. And when a man knows how to use words in that way, he stops being just another guy she met. He becomes unforgettable. This is why so many men lose her interest without even realizing it. They focus on trying to impress her instead of creating an emotional experience with their words. But obsession isn't born from what she sees. It's born from what she feels when she's with you. And that feeling begins with the words you choose. Most men are terrified of showing any kind of vulnerability because they think it makes them look weak. They want to be seen as strong, confident, untouchable. But here's the paradox. When you refuse to show any vulnerability, you actually come across as closed off, guarded, even fake. A woman doesn't obsess over a man who seems like a robot. She obsesses over the man who lets her see him. Vulnerability, when done right, doesn't strip away your strength. It amplifies it. It says, I'm strong enough to let you in. And that is magnetic. Because the moment you use a word that reveals a glimpse of what's underneath the armor, she feels like she's been given access to a side of you no one else gets. That's intimacy, that's connection, and that's when she starts thinking about you long after the conversation ends. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. Obsession doesn't live in logic. You can't argue someone into wanting you. You can't list off your achievements and expect her to suddenly fall in love. Attraction is not a checklist, it's a feeling. And feelings don't respond to logic, they respond to triggers. That's why these words are so powerful. They bypass her rational mind and go straight to her emotions. She might not even understand why she's drawn to you, why she can't stop thinking about that one thing you said. And that's the beauty of it, because when her emotions are lit up, she'll start justifying her attraction to you in ways that don't even make sense. She'll say to herself, he just feels different, I can't explain it, but I need to see him again. That's not logic speaking. That's chemistry. And the man who knows how to tap into emotion through his words will always stand out against the ones trying to win her over with reason. What makes these words so dangerous is that hardly anyone uses them. Most men are too busy trying to say what they think a woman wants to hear. Safe compliments, predictable lines, recycled conversations. But when you say something she doesn't expect, something most men would never dare to say, it jolts her. It interrupts the pattern, and in that moment, you become rare. Scarcity is powerful because we are wired to want what feels uncommon. If every man around her is avoiding these words, and you're the only one confident enough to use them, she can't help but see you differently. You're no longer just another option in the crowd, you're the exception. And the moment she feels that difference, she'll start giving you the one thing every man wants but few get, her full attention. Most conversations stay stuck on the surface. They're filled with questions like, "So, what do you do?" or "How was your day?" Safe, polite, and completely forgettable. A woman doesn't go home replaying those words in her head, but the moment you use one of these forbidden words, the conversation shifts. Suddenly, it's not small talk anymore. It's personal, it's emotional, it's alive. You've taken her out of autopilot and into a space where she feels something real. That's when she starts leaning forward, not just listening to what you're saying, but feeling it. Depth is rare, and when you bring it into a conversation, you separate yourself from the sea of shallow interactions she's used to. And the truth is, obsession doesn't come from the surface. It comes from those moments when she feels like you see past her walls and speak directly to who she is underneath. The mistake most men make is believing that showing vulnerability automatically makes them look weak. But weakness and vulnerability are not the same thing. Weakness is when you need her approval to feel good about yourself. Vulnerability is when you're strong enough to show her the truth without fear of how she'll judge you. And that difference is everything. When you use these words from a place of confidence, they don't strip away your masculinity, they highlight it. Because nothing says strength like a man who doesn't need to hide. Women aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to authenticity wrapped in confidence. So when you speak with that mix of honesty and certainty, she doesn't see a flaw. She sees a man who owns himself. And that ownership is what makes her feel safe, what makes her trust you, and what makes her want you more than anyone else in the room. Most guys spend their time chasing calling too much, texting too often, over-explaining, trying to prove they're worthy of her attention. But here's the shift. When you use these words, you flip the dynamic. You stop being the one running after her, and suddenly, she's the one leaning in, craving more of the feeling you've created. Instead of you trying to convince her to notice you, she finds herself chasing the emotional high you've given her. That's the difference between attraction and obsession. Attraction makes her interested for a moment, but obsession makes her fight for your time, your attention, your presence. And when you've mastered how to use words that spark that feeling, you'll notice she starts investing in you, asking questions, initiating conversations, looking for ways to keep you close. That's not by accident. That's the power of knowing how to make her pursue the connection instead of you constantly chasing it. What makes these words unforgettable is the way they linger. Long after the moment has passed, she'll find herself replaying them in her mind, wondering why they hit her so deeply. Most conversations fade the second they're over, but when you use words that touch her emotions, you create a kind of echo inside her. She'll be lying in bed, scrolling through her phone, and suddenly your voice, your words, come back to her. That replay is what builds obsession, because now it's not just you she's attracted to in the moment. It's the memory of how you made her feel that keeps pulling her back. And every time she replays it, that connection grows stronger. You've essentially planted an emotional anchor in her mind, and that anchor keeps reminding her that you're different, that you're rare, and that she wants more of what only you seem to give her. The biggest mistake men make when they hear about these forbidden words is they think of them like magic spells. They think, if I just memorize these words and say them at the right time, I'll make her obsessed. That mindset is exactly why most men fail, because obsession doesn't come from words alone. It comes from the energy behind them, from whether or not you truly mean what you're saying. Authenticity is everything. Think about it. You can tell a woman, I understand you, but if you're just saying it to manipulate her, she'll feel it. Women have an incredible radar for insincerity. They might not call it out directly, but something won't sit right. She'll smile, she'll nod, but deep down she'll feel a disconnect. And once she feels that disconnect, your words lose their power. But when you say something with truth behind it, when you embody the very thing you're saying, it lands differently. It sinks into her and it stays there. Authenticity is what takes these words from being gimmicks to being life. Changing. Because let's be real, if every guy could just memorize a script and suddenly make women obsessed, every woman on the planet would already be obsessed with someone. But obsession doesn't come from the script. It comes from the delivery, from the courage to speak in a way most men are too afraid to. And here's what authenticity looks like. It's when you don't rush to prove yourself. You're not trying to convince her you're confident. You're showing it through the way you carry yourself, the way you pause before you speak, the way you don't fill silence with nervous chatter. You're not desperate to impress because you already know you're enough. And when that confidence bleeds into the words you use, it transforms them. Suddenly, those forbidden words don't sound rehearsed. They sound raw, they sound alive, they sound like you. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man says to a woman, I need you. Now, if he's saying that from a place of desperation, it's unattractive. It feels heavy, clingy, suffocating. But imagine he says it with a look in his eye that's grounded, calm, certain, not like he's incomplete without her, but like he's strong enough to admit that she matters to him. Now it's powerful, now it's intimate, now it becomes one of those moments she replays over and over in her head. Same words, different energy, and the difference is authenticity. This is why I tell men, don't just learn these words, become the man who can use them authentically. Because obsession doesn't come from tricks, it comes from truth. When she feels like your words are a window into who you really are, she starts to trust you. And trust is the foundation of obsession. Without trust, all you have is attraction, and attraction fades. But with trust, attraction deepens into something she can't walk away from, even when she tries. Now here's the beautiful thing about authenticity. It doesn't mean being perfect. In fact, the more perfect you try to be, the less authentic you look. Authenticity is about being real. It's about admitting when you're nervous, when you don't have all the answers, when you actually care. Most men try to hide those things because they think it makes them look weak. But when you're strong enough to show them, it makes you magnetic. Why? Because women are starved for realness. They meet guy after guy who's putting on an act, acting cooler than he really is, acting busier than he really is, acting like he doesn't care when he actually does. So when you show up as yourself, unfiltered, unapologetic, it's like a breath of fresh air. She can finally exhale around you, and that comfort is what keeps her coming back. You want to know what obsession really is. It's not just desire. Desire is fleeting. Obsession is when she feels like she's seen, understood, and connected to on a level so rare she can't replicate it anywhere else. That's what makes her think about you constantly. That's what makes her compare every other guy to you. and they all fall short. And that only happens when your words carry the weight of authenticity. But here's the challenge: authenticity requires courage. It's easy to hide behind charm, behind rehearsed lines, behind the persona you think she wants. It's harder to reveal yourself, to say the words most men won't say, to look her in the eye and let her see you, not just the polished version of you, but the human version. That's scary, but that's also why it's rare. And because it's rare, it's valuable. And because it's valuable, it creates obsession. Think of it like this. Imagine she meets 10 men in a month. 9 of them are trying to impress her. They talk about their jobs, their achievements, their plans, their confidence. But then she meets one man who doesn't play that game. Instead, he listens. He asks her something no one else has asked. He shares something real about himself, not in a self-pitying way, but in a way that shows courage. Suddenly, she's intrigued. She can't put her finger on it, but she feels a pull. That pull is obsession beginning to form, and it's born from authenticity. Now, let me take this even deeper. Authenticity doesn't just attract her. It also tests her. When you show up authentically, you're essentially saying, "This is who I am. Can you handle it?" And if she can't, then she's not the one for you. That's another reason authenticity is powerful. It filters. It weeds out the wrong people and draws in the right ones. And when the right one shows up, she won't just like you. She'll invest in you, she'll fight for you, she'll obsess over you, because she knows how rare it is to find someone who's real. And let's not forget, authenticity creates consistency. Anyone can fake confidence for an hour. Anyone can memorize clever lines for a night out. But you can't fake authenticity long term. When you're being real, you never have to worry about being caught out, because you're not performing. You're just being you. And that consistency is what allows obsession to grow stronger over time instead of fading away. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. It's easier to learn tricks than it is to become authentic. Tricks give you short-term results. Authenticity takes work. It requires self-awareness, honesty, and the willingness to grow. But if you put in that work, you stop being the kind of man who needs tricks. You become the man who naturally attracts the right woman, the man whose words hit differently because they come from a place of truth. And that's the kind of man who doesn't just create attraction, he creates obsession. Think about the men women never forget. It's rarely the smoothest guy in the room. It's the one who made her feel something real. The one who wasn't afraid to say what was on his mind, even if it was imperfect. The one who didn't just try to win her over, but allowed her to see him. That's the man who lives in her thoughts months, even years later. Not because of what he had, but because of who he was, and how authentically he showed it. And that's the final key to understanding these forbidden words. They're not about pretending, they're not about performing, they're about revealing. They're about choosing to be bold enough, honest enough, authentic enough to say what other men won't. And when you do that, you don't just grab her attention for a night, you hold her mind, her heart, and her obsession for as long as you want. And that's the beauty of all of this. It's not about tricks. It's not about saying the right thing once and hoping she falls for you. It's about stepping into a level of honesty and courage most men never dare to show. Because when you use these words with authenticity, when you let them flow from who you truly are, they stop being forbidden and start becoming irresistible. She won't obsess over you because you played a game. She'll obsess because you made her feel something real. You'll be the man she can't get out of her head, the one she compares everyone else to, the one she doesn't just want but craves. And the truth is, the power has been in your hands all along. Not in what you own, not in how you look, but in the courage to say what others are too afraid to say. That's where the obsession begins, that's how it grows, and that's how you become unforgettable.